YouTube? It's Eric Shepard, and I'm back with another episode of The Outspoken. No Lindsay today. She's doing some big TTS thing and then a bunch of commercials, and she's doing like 1,000 things, so. Meh. Girls, man. Who needs them? If I haven't said it enough times, if we haven't gotten to your questions, we will get to them. It's just I don't want to do 4-hour videos because that sucks for everybody. So we just try to grab a few and do them. So if you've got questions that you asked before, hopefully we'll get to them unless they were dumb. Ask your question or give us your topic suggestion or rant suggestion. I got a couple of those coming up, by the way. Feeling ranty. But in the meantime, we got some questions. J. Christopher Dunn asks, should time be taken to sweeten audition audio? Compression, EQ, normalizing, or is it enough to send, making certain that levels are appropriate with no background noise? Good question. It should sound like the final project. It should sound so good that they go, wow, all right, we can imagine this car spot once it's done sounding like that. You get a little bit of leeway. People understand that this is just an audition. They're not looking for, crazy sparkles, but you get folks that send in stuff, they did off their cell phone or something. They say, oh, I'm not in the studio right now. And, man, that sounds terrible, Give them an idea of what the final project is going to be so they could cast you and say, well, because that's what we want. So if you want to sweeten a little bit, yeah, go for it. Some people at one point were thinking, oh, that's like cheating. No, it's not, because that's what they're going to do to the final product anyway. Certainly don't EQ yourself somewhere that you couldn't naturally go, but, sweeten it up a bit if you know what you're doing. Everybody seems to think that they do, and not everybody does. It's not easy to just add a little compression or EQ or something and be subtle about it. And so folks start screwing with that stuff, and then it sounds worse than if they didn't do anything. Or they'll go in and take out every single breath, or they put on some noise reduction because they got a crappy room, and the noise reduction just makes it sound awful. So you have to know what you're doing. But if you know what you're doing, do it. Just have it be subtle. Most importantly, though, from my standpoint, is be loud enough. Make sure that you're bringing those levels up. Because we get auditions, all the time, and then we're listening to 50 of them in a row before we're sending them to the client. And you have everybody up and nice at a nice level, and then you get one that's, way down here, or even just kind of, halfway down. It sounds lost. It's just gone. You get lost in the shuffle, and you sound weak. We tell talent all the time, bump that up, man. Stop. And some of them don't listen, and it's costing them auditions. I guess you just sound weak, really, in comparison. And then the other problem is you get the folks on the other end will crank you up to listen to you, and most of the time they're listening to their crappy computer speakers. So if there's any noise or hiss that's introduced because they're cranking you, they're going to blame it on you. And maybe it wasn't even your room. There was nothing wrong with your recording environment. You didn't bump it up before you sent it out. So normalize that, get that, around -2, send it nice and big and clear. Doreen Janice asks, I have a regional accent that could be heard on my demos. I've heard that I should neutralize working with a dialect coach, tone down, or work with what I have and market myself with that in mind. Your thoughts? Regionalisms are problematic. You want to sound like the guy next door. Again, I'm always talking about commercials because I do so many commercials, but in a commercial spot especially, you want the guy next door. And so if you sound like you're from New York, you got a deep thing or a Cali thing or a southern twang, that's not going to play across all of North America, which is, usually you're going for national spots, or they'll add Canada as well. That's another regionalism that gets people in trouble. They have a Canadian type of thing, and that doesn't play in the States. So you want to be as neutral as possible so that you sound like the neighbor of as many people as possible, so that they could play you everywhere. I'm sure you could hear it now. I'm from New York. I'm from Long Island. I could turn it off in the booth, but even just to get to where I'm speaking naturally now and to not be overwhelmingly Long Island took me a lot of time. It's not easy to do. My whole family is very New York. My wife is very New York. Her first demo, she was like, "Oh, my dog." We heard demos were like a million years ago. Anybody, if you find your first demos, like burn that stuff quick before like anybody finds it. My sister is from Long Island. She talks like this. And my brother, he talks for a living. I don't know, whatever. My father's from Brooklyn. To turn it off and to speak at least as neutral as I am now is taken years of work, and it's very difficult. But I think it was absolutely worth it to be able to do that. If you can't, and it's a strong regionalism, and it's obvious, and it's not just that there's a few keywords that you could work on. For New Yorkers, water is a big one. Water, I want water. And then it just gives you away, even if the rest of the stuff doesn't sound super Yankee. So if you just can't turn it off, and then you decide, well, okay, I'm gonna mark it like you're saying, then you have to understand that you're kind of a niche player now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you have a niche that you do, if you have an accent, I mean, there's a lot of foreign talent that we work with. There's no way they're getting rid of their accent. This isn't regionalism. They're from another country, for God's sakes, and they're working here. So when they're doing English stuff, it's going to be accented, and so they understand that they're niche. But if you're the only one on the block that speaks, Swahili, when somebody needs Swahili, they're probably going to, you're going to have a much better shot at that. So you're going to have less opportunities in general with a regionalism or an accent. A regionalism to a lesser degree, but it could still affect you as much as having a full-on accent, especially if you're going to market yourself that way. So if you're like, hey, I'm as Saskatchewan as it gets, okay, well, great. And folks that want that are going to gravitate towards you. But that's not everybody. So, you know what I'm saying? So if you can figure out how to turn it off, I recommend it. Otherwise, just push the hell out of that and let every client out there know that if they want your regionalism, they want your little thing that you do, that you're the one. Go to you. All right, Rob Novak asks, I also do on-camera and stage acting. Should I have separate resumes for VO and on-camera work, or smash everything together on one page? That's another good question. Good ones this week. I would separate them, man. We used to insist that everybody send stuff in the mail. We wanted CDs and stuff, and then it was just, too much and too old school, I guess. But we still get a lot of headshots, and they send us their thing, and then on the back they have like stapled or taped all their, theater stuff that they've done, and that's their whole thing, and that it's just not applicable. I'm not looking for your big headshot. We were talking about it on Facebook not long ago. Like, unless they're nude, like there's nothing interesting about your picture. We just don't need it. I mean, it's voiceover, so it seems silly to send the headshot, and then you go, okay, well, whatever, they're cute. And then you turn it over, and it's, all the things that are listed are theater credits. I'm thinking this person doesn't do a lot of voiceover, and they're not going to be there when I need them. Full-time voiceover talent, they're not always there because they're doing other, voiceover jobs. But for the most part, they're not saying, well, I'm away with the traveling troupe of jugglers or whatever the hell else they do for a couple weeks. When I'm repping somebody, I want them to be voiceover talent. That's what they do, man. They're voiceover people, and they do voiceover all the time. Now, is it all right if you're on the radio? Maybe. If you got a morning show and you're done, all right. We do rep a lot of folks that are in some movies and commercials, and you understand, hey, listen, they're on set. When they're on set all the time, though, you go, hey, congratulations, I'm glad things are working out for you, but they're not working out on this end, man, because you're never around when we need to schedule you for voiceover stuff. So these types of conflicts, one, the scheduling conflict, and two, just the conflict within, hey, is your head really in the game here? Are you really focused on voiceover? Those are real issues for agents. So to start off, right off the bat by saying, well, here's my headshot and all the other wacky stuff I do, it's not helping you. So yeah, nix that. Brad Venable asks, when a client calls for union only, do you pass those requirements to your talent only as a courtesy? I ask because there's been discussion recently as to the legality of placing restrictions on those auditions. I didn't know that there was discussion recently. Nobody invited me to talk with you people. We don't restrict at all. We have talent that are union, we have talent that are non-union, but we always send them the union stuff because maybe they want to go union. So, that'd be great. That's how most people get into the union, is they happen upon a union job that, that works for them. Or maybe they want to go FICO for it, or they even want to tapped out for that one. They say, you know what, this one is good and it's worth it and I'd be good for it. And so that's what, gets their foot in the door. I'm in the business of providing opportunities. So again, oftentimes the union stuff is pretty nice. So, listen, we want to send it to everybody on the roster. But as far as being legally obligated, I'm not legally obligated to send you squat. If I don't think you're right for it, if I think that you've auditioned maybe for stuff like that before, or you've worked with this client before and you didn't get along, or the client specifically is saying this is a list of people who we want you to send it to, and that happens often. They go to our website, or it's folks that they work with before. I'm not obligated to send you any auditions, for God's sakes, if they come into us, just because we rep you. We can decide where, what things go to who and where this goes and where that goes. Again, from us personally, I try to send out everything I possibly can to every talent that we have. Again, to give them as many opportunities as possible, and that gives us more opportunities to to land the job as well. I could see agents saying, we don't want to deal with this. Their clients, and we've had clients before that have asked us specifically, they must be full union, or we don't want to deal with the Taft thing. We had one time, it was a long time ago though, but they said no FICOR. They specifically said, but very, very occasionally they'll say full union. So that might be why agents decide, listen, I don't want to tick off the client. When you're an agent, you're walking this fine line where you're trying to make talent happy and you're trying to make the client happy. So, sometimes you have to decide, is this better for talent? Is this better for the client? And hopefully come up with something that works for, for everybody. And that's, that's your job. So you might say, well, it would be great to give this to everybody, but, their name's at the top of the check. And, this is who they want us to send it to. So I can understand where sometimes that might happen just because the agent is following the instructions that they were given by their client. But, anyways, that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at least in a week. There might be a rant coming up. Otherwise, questions down below, blah, blah, blah. Subscribe, blah, 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 blah. You know the deal. Yeah, see you next time.